It was a slow Thursday evening at Ricky's Roadhouse Bar, a dimly lit place on the edge of town where truckers, locals, and the occasional traveler came to unwind. The jukebox played soft blues, glasses clinked behind the counter, and the smell of fried food and whiskey hung in the air. One end of the bar, an elderly black man sat quietly, sipping his iced tea. His name was Mr. Leon Brooks, a man in his late 60s with silver hair, calm eyes, and a posture that spoke of quiet confidence. He wore a plain brown jacket, neatly pressed shirt, and had the air of someone who had seen life from many angles, but never let it break him. Wasn't there to drink. He never did. He just came by sometimes to enjoy the music and talk with the bartender, Ricky, who knew his story, at least a part of it, but that night, the piece didn't last long. A group of 4 young men stumbled in, loud and cocky. They called themselves the Iron Dogs, a small-town gang with big egos and empty respect. They'd been drinking elsewhere and were looking for someone to mess with. "Hey, look at Grandpa over there," one of them snickered, pointing toward Leon. "What's he doing here? Did the nursing home run out of pudding?" The others laughed. Ricky, behind the bar, frowned and started to step forward, but Leon raised a hand, calm and unbothered. "It's all right, son," he said softly. "Let them be." But the gang didn't stop. They walked closer, surrounding Leon's stool. The leader, a tall, tattooed man named Dale, leaned in and sneered. "You lost, old man? This ain't bingo night." Leon looked up at him with steady eyes. "No, I'm right where I need to be." That simple answer irritated Dale. "You got a smart mouth for a fossil," he said. "Maybe we should teach you some manners." Ricky warned Dale, "Leave him alone. You don't know who you're talking to." Dale smirked. "Yeah? Who's he, some preacher or something?" Leon set down his glass. His voice stayed calm, steady, almost too gentle for the tension in the air. "I don't want any trouble, young man. Go enjoy your night." But trouble had already arrived. Dale grabbed Leon's shoulder, roughly turning him around. "You gonna tell me what to do, old man?" What happened next was over in seconds. Leon's body moved like water, smooth, precise, and impossibly fast for his age. His hand shot up, twisting Dale's wrist until a sharp crack echoed in the bar. Dale screamed, his knees buckling. The other 3 lunged in instinctively, but Leon's training took over. A sidestep, an elbow to the ribs, a sweep of the leg, one man hit the floor gasping. Another swung a bottle, but Leon ducked, pivoted, and used the man's momentum to send him crashing into a table. The last one froze, unsure whether to fight or run. Leon turned to him, not with anger, but with calm authority. "Don't," he said simply. The young man dropped his hands and backed away. Silence filled the bar. Only the faint hum of the jukebox remained. Ricky slowly came forward, shaking his head. "Tried to warn you, boys," he muttered. "That man right there used to teach martial arts to the local police. Retired karate instructor, 5th degree black belt." Dale groaned, clutching his wrist. You broke my hand." Leon knelt beside him, still calm. "No," he said. "I didn't. It's dislocated. Go to the hospital and get it fixed. And next time, show respect. Not everyone weaker looking than you is helpless." The words cut deeper than any punch could have. The gang stumbled out, half in pain, half in shame. Ricky chuckled softly. "Leon, you sure you don't want a drink after that?" Leon smiled, straightened his jacket, and picked up his glass of iced tea. "No need. I'm fine. Some things," he said, taking a sip, "you don't lose with age, you just learn when to use them." The bar slowly returned to normal. People whispered, still stunned by what they'd seen. But Leon didn't care for the attention. He sat back, eyes on the jukebox as a soft blues tune played again. To anyone watching, he looked like just another old man relaxing at a bar, but those who'd seen him move would never forget the lesson that night. Respect isn't about fear. It's about knowing that strength can live quietly, in the calmest of souls. 2 weeks had passed since that night at Ricky's Roadhouse Bar, the night 4 arrogant young men learned what true strength really looked like. Word had spread around town like wildfire. Some said the old man was a retired soldier. Others said he was an ex-Special Forces agent. But the truth was simpler. Leon Brooks was just a man who had spent 40 years studying martial arts, not to hurt others, but to understand himself. He didn't talk about it. He never bragged. He just lived quietly, teaching kids discipline and respect at a small community center on the south side of town. That Friday evening, as the sun dipped low and the streets glowed orange, Leon unlocked the gym doors. The floor was polished wood, the walls lined with mirrors, and in the corner stood a row of old photographs, students in white GIs, smiling proudly. He tied his black belt around his waist, bowed toward the mat, and began stretching. He thought he'd have a quiet evening class with his students, but the door creaked open. Leon looked up, and there they were, the Iron Dogs, the same 4 who'd tried to humiliate him. They stood awkwardly near the entrance, their usual swagger gone. Dale's wrist was still in a brace. The others looked uneasy, heads slightly lowered. Ricky had told them where to find him. Leon didn't speak at first. He just studied them with that calm, unreadable expression. Finally, he said, "You boys lost again?" Dale swallowed hard. "No, sir. We came to talk." Leon nodded toward the mats. "Then talk." Dale hesitated, glancing at his crew. "Look, man, we were out of line that night. I was drunk, stupid. You didn't deserve that." "None of it." Leon nodded slowly. "Go on." "I thought being tough meant acting mean. Making people scared of me. But that night," he looked down. "You weren't scared. You just handled it. Like it was nothing." Leon walked closer, his hands behind his back. "That's because fear and respect are not the same thing," he said quietly. "You can force fear. But respect? That's earned through your choices." One of the younger guys, Kyle, spoke up. We wanted to ask if you'd teach us. Not fighting, but what you know." For a moment, Leon said nothing. The room was still except for the faint hum of a ceiling fan. Then, he smiled faintly. "You want to learn karate?" Dale nodded. "Yeah. Not to fight, just to learn control." Leon turned toward the mat. "Shoes off," he said simply. They obeyed. For the next hour, the old master guided them through the basics: stance, balance, breathing. Every movement was slow and deliberate. He corrected them gently, teaching patience instead of aggression. When Dale lost balance, Leon steadied him. "Strength isn't about hitting harder," he said. "It's about staying grounded when everything tries to knock you down." By the end of the session, sweat dripped down their faces. Their arrogance was gone, replaced by quiet respect. As they bowed to finish, Leon looked at them with pride hidden beneath his calm exterior. "You've all got potential," he said. "But remember, power without purpose destroys. Power with discipline heals." Dale met his gaze. "I won't forget that." Leon nodded. "Good. Then maybe that night at the bar wasn't a mistake after all." They left with heads high, not with shame, but with purpose. The next week, they returned, this time not as bullies, but as students, and over time, the Iron Dogs were no more. In their place stood 4 young men who taught younger kids how to stand tall, defend themselves, and walk away from violence. Leon watched them grow, quietly content. He never needed recognition. His satisfaction came from seeing lost boys find their path. As he closed the dojo one night, Ricky dropped by and leaned against the doorway. "So," he said with a grin, "you turned a gang into a dojo class, huh?" Leon chuckled. "Sometimes," he said, turning off the lights, "the best way to stop a fight is to teach the enemy what peace feels like." The night was calm again, just like him, because real warriors, Leon knew, didn't fight for pride, they fought to protect peace, and to pass that peace on. 6 months had passed since that unforgettable night at Ricky's Roadhouse. The night that had changed 4 young men forever. The Iron Dogs no longer existed. In their place were young men who trained at Brooks' dojo every week, learning not only martial arts but patience, humility, and self-control. Under Leon Brooks' guidance, they'd learned how to fight, but more importantly, when not to. But life, as Leon always said, has a way of testing what you learn when you least expect it. It was late one Friday evening when Dale, the former leader of the Iron Dogs, finished work at a construction site. He'd been sober for months, saving money, staying out of trouble. His clothes were covered in dust, his hands rough from honest labor. Decided to stop by a small diner for coffee before heading home. The place was quiet, except for 3 loud strangers in leather jackets harassing the waitress, a young woman barely out of her teens. Dale sat in the corner, watching quietly at first. The waitress, Emily, was trying her best to stay polite. "Please, sir," she said, voice trembling. "If you could just..." One of the men slammed his cup on the table. "I said refill it. Don't you hear, girl?" The whole diner went silent. Dale took a deep breath. Leon's words echoed in his mind. Strength isn't about who you can knock down. It's about who you can lift up. He stood up slowly, walked over, and placed a few dollars on the counter. "Hey," he said calmly. "You're scaring her. Let the lady do her job." The biggest of the 3 turned, sneering. "Who the hell are you supposed to be?" Dale didn't flinch. "Someone who's asking you nicely to leave her alone." The man got up, towering over him. "Or what?" Dale stayed grounded, feet balanced, shoulders relaxed, eyes calm. Just as Leon had taught him, "Or you'll regret staying." The man threw a wild punch. Dale stepped aside effortlessly. One movement, fluid, practiced. He redirected the man's arm, twisted his wrist, and guided him to the ground in a controlled lock. The diner gasped. The second man lunged, but Dale blocked, pivoted, and swept his leg out from under him. The third froze, realizing this wasn't a random brawl, this was discipline in motion. Dale released the first man and stepped back. "You can walk out now," he said firmly, "or you can limp out. Your choice." They scrambled out of the diner, leaving a mess of chairs behind. Emily's hands were shaking as she held the coffee pot. "Tea, thank you," she stammered. Dale nodded gently. "You're safe now. Don't worry." As the adrenaline faded, he noticed something. He hadn't felt rage. No wild anger, no need to humiliate anyone. Just clarity and control. He smiled to himself. It's what Leon had been teaching them all along. The next day, Dale went to the dojo early. Leon was sweeping the floor, as he always did before class. "You're early," Leon said without looking up. "Yeah," Dale replied with a grin. "Got tested last night." Leon paused, then smiled knowingly. "And?" "I passed." Leon set down the broom and nodded once. "Good. Tell me what you learned." Dale thought for a moment. "That fighting isn't about winning. It's about ending the fight before it starts. About being calm when others lose their heads." Leon's eyes softened. "That's the lesson most people never learn." The two stood in silence for a moment, the air calm and warm. Then Leon said quietly, "You've come a long way, Dale. You remind me of myself when I was young, angry at the world, until someone taught me how to breathe again." Dale smiled. "Guess you're paying it forward now." Leon chuckled. "That's what we're all supposed to do." That evening, as class began, Dale helped train the younger kids, teaching them not just punches and kicks, but patience, focus, and respect. And as Leon watched from the corner, a quiet pride filled his heart. The boy who once mocked him in a bar was now a man teaching others peace. The dojo lights glowed softly as the students bowed at the end of class. Leon closed his eyes for a moment, hearing the quiet harmony of their voices. He smiled, whispering to himself, "The best battles are the ones we never have to fight." A full year had passed since the night at Ricky's Roadhouse, when Leon Brooks quietly reminded a few reckless young men what true strength meant. Now, his dojo thrived. The students respected him deeply, especially Dale, who had gone from street brawler to assistant instructor, strong, centered, and patient. But peace never lasts forever. Sometimes, the past finds its way back to test the lessons you thought you'd already mastered. It was a cool autumn afternoon when Leon received a letter. The envelope was worn, the handwriting rough, like someone who hadn't picked up a pen in years. Inside were just a few words. "You still hiding behind peace, old man? I'm coming to finish what we started." Marcus. Leon sat in silence for a long time, staring at the letter. The name alone stirred old memories, memories he had spent years trying to bury. Marcus Grant, once his best student, then his greatest regret. 20 years earlier, Marcus had been a natural, fast, fierce, talented beyond his age. But where Leon taught patience, Marcus sought power. He wanted fame, control, dominance. When Leon refused to teach him advanced techniques without emotional discipline, Marcus snapped. He left the dojo in anger, vowing that one day he'd prove Leon wrong. Leon sighed, folded the letter neatly, and tucked it into his pocket. "So," he murmured, "the past has finally decided to visit." 3 days later, the dojo doors opened during evening training. The students stopped mid-practice as a tall, scarred man walked in. Marcus. His hair was streaked with gray, his eyes sharp but hollow. He carried himself like someone who'd seen too many fights and learned all the wrong lessons. Leon looked up from where he stood. "Marcus," he said softly. "It's been a long time." Marcus smirked. "Still playing the wise old master, huh?" He looked around at the students. "You teaching kids to bow while the world steps on them?" Leon remained calm. "I'm teaching them to stand tall without stepping on others." Marcus scoffed. "Still preaching peace. You were always too soft." He stepped forward. "How about we test that again? One last match. You and me." Dale took a step forward, anger flashing in his eyes. "Hey, show some respect." "This man," Leon raised a hand. "It's all right, Dale." Then, turning to Marcus, he said, "If you've come for a fight, I won't stop you. But I won't strike first. Not anymore." Marcus's fists clenched. "Then you'll lose." He lunged fast, powerful, years of street fighting rage behind every move. But Leon moved like the wind, smooth, precise, effortless. He blocked, redirected, stepped aside. Each attack Marcus launched, Leon turned into AIR.to the watching students. It was mesmerizing, like watching two worlds collide, rage versus restraint, chaos versus calm. Finally, Marcus charged again, roaring. Leon sidestepped and guided his momentum, sending him sprawling to the mat. He didn't strike. He just placed a steady hand on Marcus's shoulder. "It's over," Leon said quietly. "It's been over for years. You're still fighting ghosts, Marcus." Marcus lay there, breathing hard, eyes glassy. For the first time, he didn't look angry, just tired. "Why didn't you finish it?" he rasped. You could have beaten me. Leon smiled faintly. Because that's what I was supposed to teach you all along. Winning isn't about breaking someone, it's about saving them before they break themselves. For a long moment, Marcus said nothing. Then, slowly, he sat up, eyes lowering in shame. All these years, I thought you were holding me back, he whispered. But you were just trying to keep me from turning into this. Leon placed a hand on his shoulder. It's never too late to turn back. Weeks passed, Marcus began visiting the dojo again, not to fight, but to train. Quietly, humbly, side by side with the same students he once mocked, Dale, watching him one night, asked Leon, "Do you really think people like him can change?" Leon smiled. "I've seen angry boys become teachers. Why not broken men become healers?" The dojo echoed with calm, steady breathing as the students bowed at the end of practice, and for the first time in decades, Marcus bowed too, this time, with genuine respect. Later that night, as Leon locked the doors, he looked out into the quiet street. The neon lights flickered, and the wind carried the faint scent of rain. He thought of all the fights he'd seen, those won with fists, and those won with forgiveness. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "A true warrior doesn't seek victory. He seeks peace, and teaches others to find it." Then he walked away into the night, his heart light and still, knowing the lessons of the bar, the dojo, and his life had finally come full circle.